Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this week's live trading session and trading review of the week's trades as well. I'm just operating off one screen today because I have some people working in the house and it's rather noisy. So I've tried to find as quiet a place as I can. Markets have been trading in quite tight ranges all week. We saw that range. We saw that range between 34,000 and 34,250 holding up for the majority of the week, and then we saw that break through that 34,000 level yesterday. So the trading range has been probably even tighter today, probably in 100 points, around 33,950 up to about, 33,940 up to about where we've traded just recently, around that 34,040 level. So a very tight range pre-open. What we have seen, I think, for the majority of this week so far is that there has been a bit of strength on the opening bell in New York. That's then dissipated somewhat, and we've seen a move lower. But prior to yesterday, every time we moved back, and even including yesterday, to be honest, the first move that we had down towards 34,020 immediately saw a jump up of 120 pips as well. So that line around 34,020 had been very well supported until yesterday, when we did see that breakthrough. And the breakthrough came as a consequence of two things really: a 30-year Treasury yield auction that didn't go as well as could have been expected, and also Jerome Powell suggesting that independent of the data, or despite the data that's coming through that shows that the interest rates are having the desired effect, there is still work to do with inflation, and he's certainly not ruling out the potential for another rate hike. So we've had probably, over the last few weeks, there's been this growing consensus that the Fed is done with rate increases, that there is even some potential towards the middle part of 2024, so next year, for there to be a rate cut. Powell probably put some of those, or put some of that optimism back a little bit with his statement. So a combination of those two things saw all three indices end lower yesterday, and certainly for the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq, we've seen the end to a fairly buoyant move over the last number of weeks. So I had a very good day trading yesterday, a reasonably good day today. I'm not going to be too aggressive today. It's a significant turnaround from the beginning of the week, when I just wasn't, I was positioned for that break lower, and as I've mentioned already, every time we hit that 34,020 level, we broke higher quite aggressively, and on a couple of occasions that stopped me out. I think gold's getting quite interesting at the levels that we're trading at the moment. Gold currently is around the 1945 level. If we do dip from here, I think I do have interest in buying over the last couple of days, and this has been a pattern as well, as gold has sold off. And if you can get your entry points correct, there have been some fairly nice jumps to the upside. Should probably have enjoyed one or two of those a little bit more than I did, but exited the trade reasonably quickly. There was one trade today that I just wanted to mention before we go on to look at this open. The DAX trade, I had a limit in to buy, or a take profit in, at 15,205, I think it was, and we traded down to about 15,209 on the bid, didn't quite get down to the level that I was looking at, and just decided to take that out a little bit earlier for 25 pips or so, and then the market bounced quite aggressively from there. So happy with that particular exit. Exits in general during the week, I think I've tended to be a little bit too early on some of those exits, so left a certain number of pips on the table, but hopefully we'll see that improve over the next period. There are several things I want to talk about when we get through to looking at the trade review side of things, but for the time being we'll just have a closer look at a couple of these markets. With the Dow, I just placed one short trade there a few minutes ago, just to sell the market, or I did sell the market at 34,027. We're currently a little bit higher than that at the moment, 34,036, but really everything's dependent on that opening bell when it starts to come through in the next 4.5 minutes or so. So for the Dow, you can see quite how narrow that range has been throughout the morning period so far today. No great momentum in either direction. I think obviously the Dow is looking to open up above this 34,000 line, above this 34,020 line, where we've seen a certain amount of support up until this particular point, but with the negativity that we saw from Jerome Powell's comments yesterday, there is a chance that we can see that we'll see a further push lower. Friday, certain amount of profit taking. I think gold looks particularly weak, so I will be looking for opportunities to buy into that. And hopefully take advantage of moves that we may see in gold this afternoon. So that's the Dow for the time being. Let's just get back and maybe have a look at. So the Dow is still hovering around those levels, possibly ticked up just a little bit there to 50. As I've been talking, so it's certainly looking as if we're going to see a slightly more positive start to the day there with the Dow at the moment. Not too eager to get further short this afternoon. Just take my time just to see how this opens. If we do see a jump up to 34,100 on the open, might possibly get interested around those levels, but gold's just holding fairly firm around that 45 level, so nothing to do there with gold at this particular point. The DAX is moving, and the DAX has been very solid throughout the week. It's been quite painful for me on occasion. Every time we've seen that sell-off in the Dow, we haven't quite seen a similar movement in the DAX. It's remained well bid and difficult to exit from. So even into the close yesterday, I think the two trades that did actually cost me money yesterday were both DAX trades, and certainly because of the additional strength that we were seeing in that particular market. So we've got less than 60 seconds now to go to the opening bell, so we'll just have a look at the Dow as it pushes forward to the open. So we're still pushing higher there, might hit that 34,100 level on the open, still trading around 34,077. So a nice decent move to the upside, about 50 pips against me on the trade that I do have open. Still inclined to sell into this. I think I probably want to see if I can get a little bit more out of it, just waiting for that. And the market is open now, so not running away with itself by any stretch of the imagination, holding fairly firm there around that 34,070 level. Just pushing up there now, seeing 88 as a high. do worry that this internet connection isn't holding out as well as it should be. I think one of the builders may have done something to it today, but getting a couple of notifications there that the signal isn't as good as it would normally be. So for the time being, I'm really just holding there. I don't know if we're going to see 34,100 around this opening bell. We obviously have all of those opening orders going through at the moment, and we're trading in an exceptionally narrow range for the time being. And as I've mentioned already, not a great deal of momentum in either direction. Might just get a little bit more aggressive and sell the market around these levels. Plan was to see it a little bit higher than it currently is, but we're not quite getting there. So I'm just going to sell that probably 10 or so pips sooner than I was interested in. Keep an eye on that for the next few minutes as we go through this session. I'll just bring up the trades for the week so far. So it is a positive week. As I mentioned, a lot of that turnaround came around from yesterday with some particularly good trading around during that particular period. Reasonable day today. I do have another Dow position on. The Dow trade that I just sold is about 10 or so pips to the upside at the moment. So just keep an eye on that, and I'm just going to exit that hopefully. So you'll see I've just closed that trade. That will come through on Telegram. So I think it's about 23, 24 pips worth of profit on that particular one. So the bad days, well, Wednesday was the really bad day, a negative day also on Tuesday. But then a significant turnaround yesterday. The DAX, as I've mentioned already, and this was probably the main part of this week, has remained stubbornly strong throughout the week. Every time we've seen that fall off in the DAX, it hasn't followed suit. That's been a point of some contention during the week. But hopefully with the positive moves that we saw yesterday, I can leave some of that behind me. So we're moving, the Dow is still moving lower, trading around 34,043. So moving back to that entry level earlier, that last trade would have been a lot better had I held on to it, but just don't want to run too much exposure this afternoon. The trades will come through, fairly steadily, but really looking to do one, maximum two trades at a time, close those out. And then think about whether I want to go again. Probably more interested in gold this afternoon if we do see a bit of a sell-off. I do think the Dow is going to stay within a reasonably narrow range, but I am hoping that will see a dip to the downside. So that the original Dow trade, the one that I had before the opening bell, is just showing a small profit there at the moment. Not going to run that too aggressively. You'll see that trade's closed as well. So I'm flat at the moment. Both those Dow trades closed. Probably another 40 pips worth of profit to add into the P&L. So that just takes me over 400 pips or so to the upside. Two things I'm concerned about at the moment. The builders may have tripped something with the internet. I'm just going to go and double check that. And the noise is picking up as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave you here, and I'll get back on Telegram straight away and update these trades. Thank you very much for joining me, and I will